pocket in the back, so before you leave, clean out your pants pockets or your wallet or whatever. You'll hear it jingling. I want to talk about upcoming events. Tomorrow. Better? Yeah, okay, sorry. Tomorrow, we have, in this very same room, we have a Flag Day party. It's a watch party. How many know about that at all? And you're all going to be here tomorrow?
Yeah.
Woo! Wonderful, wonderful. I guess I'm showing my age, but I know two of the people that are in that concert. The others, I'm going to have to look up. I know Jane Fonda and I know Bette Midler, but the rest, I don't know. But I'm sure they're good. I'm sure they're good. On Thursday, June 18th, Carolyn Fisher just advised me that Obama's library is opening. They're going to live stream the event on the 18th. We don't know the time. Carolyn will get back to us and we'll email it out to everybody. The official opening, of course, is on Juneteenth, on Friday. So, wonderful. And have you seen pictures of it? Wow, it's an incredible building, incredible. My husband and I, over the years, traveled. We've seen 13 libraries. One year on our way back to Minnesota for a few weeks during the summertime, we saw 9. Wow. That was our best trip ever. The two that probably were the most memorable, Eisenhower and Truman's.
Yeah.
And of course the Lincoln Memorial, but that's a park, a national park, but that too was remarkable. The others were good, but the first two we saw really very, very good. On the 19th, at 9 o'clock in the morning, there's a rally at Quail Creek, but it's not ours. It's a Republican rally. Yeah, and you're welcome to join a group of people. I think the event is at 9:30. 9 o'clock, excuse me, in the Madeira Ballroom. So I think there are going to be quite a few people at both the front entrance of Quail Creek and at the back entrance to greet Siskamani, Schweik, the other fellow that's running for governor, the gentleman running for mine inspector against our great Brian Matlock, and the last one is Ray Carroll. I don't know if you know Ray Carroll.
Yes.
Yes, he's the only sane one of the bunch.
Yes.
I'm surprised that he's going, but he'll be there. So if you want to, I think maybe we'll get more information out. How many might be interested in rallying? Cool, all right, we'll try to get more information. On the 27th of June, our next speaker is Celia Bavier from the Border Community Alliance. She's going to tell us what's happening at the border these days. I've not heard her, but anybody who has says she's just an incredible speaker and gets you up to date on what's going on. It's rather disheartening in some respects. And then, on the 4th of July, right down here in the plaza, we're going to have a great party from 7 in the morning until 11. From 7 to 8:30, it's a pancake breakfast. 8:30, speakers will begin. We've got Joanna Mendoza. She will be first. Yay, we loved seeing Joanna. Laura Conover. And Paul, what's his name again? Stapleton.
Paul Stapleton.
Yes, and he's from the AFL-CIO. So great speakers. What we've also done, just in case you're nervous about coming, is that we have hired a sheriff, a deputy, to be there, just in case. It's so obvious where we are collecting that morning that we could have some that are not too happy with what we're doing. But it's going to be a grand event, so look forward to seeing you all there. Any other things? George, did I forget anything back there?
I was just going to say, Larry Schwartz will be there at the Alley on the Plaza. He's going to have his sound system, so we'll have great music, great sounds. We've got 3 or 4 different groups that are going to be singing and presenting. And I hear that there might be a couple guest stars show up. So.
Woo! Oh. Yeah. Who?
Bruce Springsteen.
Right, that'll be a surprise. So I hope you're all planning on joining us.
What time does it start again?
7 in the morning.
That's what I-
And
Breakfast
what's
is
the
from.
charge for the pancake?
You know, actually, everything's free, but we'll probably have buckets out there suggesting donations would be appreciated.
Okay, great.
But at this point, no specific amount. $100 would be nice. But so, thank you. And tomorrow, too, is no cost to anybody. Indivisible and our group are sponsoring tomorrow. Yes, Carol.
I have something else that I want to announce. On Wednesday, June 20th.
George, with the show, we have 3 special speakers. Jackie Anderson, some of you have already heard her, but she's worth hearing again. Jackie. Abby Swallow, again, we've been lucky enough to hear her before. And then Bob Karp. And I think, in fact, I'll let you come up in that order. Jackie, you're ready to roll?
Okay.
And Kate's got some, there you go, there she is.
Anyway, thank you, everybody. Thank you for inviting me. And I always have a little bit of butterflies until I get started. This is one of my older pictures, but we're going to get some new ones because I've got my Facebook up running. My website is getting better. I now have administrative control over it. And I'm going to learn how to do Instagram and eventually TikTok. I'm going to work it. And at first it was just a little overwhelming. But anyway, I'm digressing. So before I start, I did want to say something. I was going to do it later, but before I start, we have 2 things that we have to think about. And the Secretary of State Fontes, when we were at our dinner a couple of weeks ago, to govern, we have to win. And there may be things that we are not in line with each other, but we can't do anything until we become a majority. And then the other one is, it's not about I, it's about us. It's about Aiden, Bob, and I, but it's about everybody else in this room, and your neighbors, and your extended families. Because, democracy is on the line. And even though that's not part of my talk, I mean, I'm just saying, this is, and I've heard it from several other politicians, we have to take the I out and say us, and we have to have a voice. And hopefully the 3 of us will be that voice for you. Thank you. So I've never run for office. I am not a politician, you all know that. And, I've lived here 32 plus years. I'll be 30, actually in August I'll be 32 years here. 19 of it was with Crondelet. And I worked in an ER, I worked a couple other places too, in the Gallows. I've had multiple opportunities to understand the uniqueness of this state. I have been I've been in every county at some point in time in this last 32 years. And the only reason I can tell you about that is because I belong to the Arizona Nurses Association, and we used all the critical access hospitals. We would move our meetings around the state. So I've been in just about, and that's why I know Cochise and Graham fairly well, because I've been at those hospitals. I remember when Douglas was open. I went down there for a trauma seminar. And so I kind of know what's going on. But why do I want to do this? I just feel like getting into the legislative arena to seek answers for the many challenges that we have in this beautiful state, and specifically for LD19. So we need to show you LD19. And I want you to understand, we are in Pima County, and this is Pima County. This is Santa Cruz, 3 precincts. And Patagonia is very progressive. I got great response from them. This, of course, is Cochise, which my 2 counterparts are sitting in the back, with this little boop out of here, because that's all very heavy Democrat. So they just wanted to kick them out. Graham and Greeley is all total. And so every time you think about, I have to think it in 5s. And as I talk about this presentation, it's basically going to be on water. is every county has a unique issue. So what we want, or what we know we want, is access to health care, availability of clean water, addressing our funding for school education, affordable housing, and there's many, many more. I mean, we can't, it just never ends. And it's coming at us very fast. I mean, they're meeting in the state legislature today to try to kill the petition for Protect Our Education Act. And I think it failed. If that's my last, yeah. So it's just, and I think they're finally, I mean, they've been in power for 60 years. And I think things are starting to scare them a little bit. So I want to give you a little change on where I'm going with this. So we're filled with mountain ranges, and it's broken up into states. So we're really not just we're pieces of different geography. You've got the Grand Canyon, you've got the Navajo Nation, we have the western portion of the river, and in our area, it's Sky Islands. We've got mountains behind us, we have the Santa Ritas to our east, we have Mount Lemmon. When you get into Cochise, you've got the Huachuca Mountains, you've got the Chiricahuas, and a variety of others. And anything that's over 7,000 feet is considered sort of a sky island. And we're also part of this whole Sonoran Desert is part of Mexico too. So with that, why am I talking about mountains? Because of snow and water. So in this last 2 or 3 years, if you haven't noticed, we don't have any snow on the Santa Ritas. When I came here in '93, we had snow on Santa Ritas at least until May. So that means our snowpack is really suffering because of climate. And I'm not going to get into that, but that's part of our problem. We don't have enough water because we don't have enough snow, for one reason, and then our monsoons go up and down in, 1 year we're a drought and 1 year we're not. So I kind of wanted to give you an idea, because as we go up higher, I mean, there's sections of the Santa Ritas that probably have snow in the back canyons that we can't see from here. And we need this. And we're not going to be able to fix it unless we start seeding the clouds, during the winter. I don't know if that's really a good idea. And back when the indigenous natives, along with later on with the Spaniards and the Mexicans who settled in this area, adapted to this arid desert landscape. And all of our major rivers were running. The Santa Cruz, the San Pedro, the Gila. The Gila does run, well, until the dam. It doesn't run through, it used to run through Pinal, but it doesn't anymore. The Salt. So all of these major rivers were running. I remember the Santa Cruz running up to Elephant Head Bridge, and then it would start trickling down underneath. And the only time it runs now is during the monsoons. And with that, let's go to why we're in where we are. So the state constitution was passed in 1911, addressing the state's water supply. Let's see if I can say this correctly. It abolished the common law document of riparian water rights, stating it shall not have a force or effect with the state. So what does this mean? It's called several issues here, because I had to really, and I need to learn more about this. Water rights are based on first time and first right. So who was here first? The miners. And the cattlemen to some extent. Water must be put to a beneficial use, which is nice, but the rights are not exclusively owning land directly to adjacent to the water source. And that's what we're going to talk about. That's very important because that's what's happening now. So then there's a new law that Governor Babbitt back in the 80s put together, the Groundwater Management Act, which is those AMAs. But guess what? The rural Arizona was totally eliminated out of that law. It only took in, well, Prescott, because Prescott was our territorial capital. I can see why they would. Phoenix, Pinal County, Tucson, Santa Cruz, Now we have Douglas, and then our last one, of course, is Wilcox, which the governor did an executive order to create. And what that brings, this is where we're going to get, it gets interesting. So I started talking. I've been to Patagonia for the PARA meetings about the mines. I've been to Save Our Scenic Santa Rita's. I've been to a couple of theirs. I've traveled all 5 counties, and many residents way back, I mean, we're talking many, many years ago, just sold out their water rights. Because that's where this little, your rights are not tied exclusively to owning your land. So somebody can come up and ask, because oh, by the way, I have a well. We'll get into that later. But we can sell our water. Somebody could buy my water if I was in dry. So what happens is they just suck it dry, and so your land is somewhat worthless unless you have the money to put a new well in. And we're talking $20,000 or more to put in a new well. And I just had my pump replaced back in 2011, and that was $8,000. So the Republican legislature has continuously sold us out to agriculture and other commercial business. Now it's the data centers. So the dairy farm in Cochise, I realize I'm not an expert at this. Hopefully Bob can help clear anything up. But that Minnesota Riverview Dairy is draining the aquifer rapidly. Now there's homes all around, about a 1.6 radius, that are dry, and there is a lawsuit that they have to repay, go back in and help them drill well. We haven't, when the last time the Attorney General was at one of our meetings, she mentioned that she was going to check on to see who is filing for and see if it's going through correctly so that people can get their wells back. But back to us, back to Pima County. We have a different issue right now, immediately here. Besides, now that you're saying we now have a potential data center, is the Copper World. In Copper World, you see the scars on the mountain, on the northwest side of it. And it's been there for many, many years. We've gone through, what, 2 or 3, I think we're on our 3rd company. It's a foreign entity. And according to Save Our Scenic Santa Rita, which is the group that's fighting them, is that they did buy water somewhere else in the state, and that's why this little interesting that I found on Google about rights are not tied exclusively to owning land. And so if the governor signs off on the project, and I'm not quite sure where we're at with that, it's going to affect us. South of Santa Rita Road, all the way from Santa Rita, all the way to Houghton, to some extent. And all the way west. I mean, it's going to be south and west, coming out, back out to, you know, the pecan groves would get the toxic water maybe first, but who knows? Arsenic does not dissolve.
No.
It's there forever. So and I didn't realize that until I was at that meeting in Wilcox a couple of weeks ago about the concerns about arsenic. And nitrate, of course, is fertilizer, but I thought that was something I needed to learn. And I took chemistry. But, so I'm not sure, I don't have a policy and I don't have a bill yet. That's what I need help with. And feedback from everyone in this room and elsewhere. Because right now there is a bill sitting in somebody's desk in the state legislature, in the Democratic caucus group. But the majority doesn't allow the Democrats to bring their bills to committee, especially our current chair, Gail Griffin, who's over the, was it natural resources and some environment? So that's where we're, have to think about, and I'm still learning. I feel that, we have to do some kind of regulatory, we have to measure more. I know they are measuring the AMAs that are currently in practice. But I think we have to be more vigorous in learning about what is under the ground besides what's above it. Now, the good news, maybe, San Diego Water Authority, has a desaltination plant. It's in Carlsbad, I think. It's not in Oceanside, I think it's in Carlsbad. They made an intra-state agreement with Arizona and Nevada so that they will give up their water rights to the Colorado River, which will help Yuma, La Paz, and maybe Mojave. I don't know how extensive that's going to go. So that'll be interesting. But the cost of water that you produce with a desaltation is anywhere from $2,700 to $4,000 for an acre per foot. That's an ouch. I would hate to see us having to put one in the Gulf of California. That's going to be challenging. Apparently there is a water line across, because they have to go through the lagunas, the southern part of the lagunas, and across Imperial County. So I'm not sure where that's going. We'll have to keep in our thoughts to figure out what's going on. The para group, this is what I like to see besides the regulation, is that we, because they have a mine outside of Patagonia. It is on private land. It was owned, it's been private for 40, 50 years. And this particular mine is, they're going to mine zinc, magnesium, and something else. And so the town is, and this para, Farmers Patagonia Area Resource Action, I think, or they're going to monitor soil, air pollution, water protection, and some biodiversity, because it's in a national forest. It's in a national forest. So we have wild animals in and out of there. We have jaguars, and we have something else. So I like that idea that if we did anything for regulatory, we need to really have the copper world to set up a dashboard and keep it, and they're asking the mine, Hermoso 32, I think, that it's maintained publicly so that we can all go onto a website and see what is your air. Now, Santa Cruz have got several areas where they are monitoring their air quality throughout their county, so that's part of working into that. And again, I can come with some ideas. I can write a bill or attach on to somebody else who's written a bill. But again, we have to win. There is nothing we're going to do as long as we stay in the minority. And we may not agree with each other, but just think of the overall of what we want as a democratic government. Yes?
Jackie, are there enough vacancies that we could actually flip the drawing?
You're gonna have to. Oh, George, you got the mic?
Is there enough vacancies to actually flip the house?
Vacancies for what?
In the state of Arizona, is there, yes, the answer to her question is yes, there's enough seats that we could turn from red to blue.
Oh,
Yes,
yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, we're at 27 on the House, and I think we had 13 in the Senate. And so in the House, I could be number 27, Aiden could be 28, and then we just need to pick up 2 or 4. We do have a couple of Democrats that are like the senator from Pennsylvania does. Yeah, we have 2 of them, I think. There might be another one. And so I think we need to have a nice cushion. We have some excellent candidates. Arizona List has got 97 women and a few men running from school board all the way up. We have got I think we have almost every house covered. And I mean, I'm not an authority on it, but I just hear from them. But yeah, we need 5 plus. But I know as long as we could get over that, because they're at 33, if we can just take 34 away from them, but we're going to have a cushion because we've got a couple of outliers in the Democratic caucus. Any questions? Or are you going to do them later?
No? Any other questions?
I got here late, but I heard you talking about the water. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes. About the CAP pipeline?
Oh, the Central Arizona Project?
Yes. That. You know that has like the lowest water rights, and Have you heard yet, or is the government thinking about turning it off? That's what I'm thinking.
Well, the Colorado River is down,
I know.
and it comes off at where the Bill Williams River starts, I think in that particular event. I have not devoted, because I'm only devoted to my 5 counties. Cochise is really the biggest issue of, they've got to get their water, we got to get them under control with their water. Because Cochise has got a huge agricultural, besides the big businesses, there's hundreds and hundreds, probably thousands of farmers in Cochise that we have to keep them from losing their land.
Any other questions? It's just a sign nobody got shot.
Excellent, excellent, Jackie.
Hello. Okay, yeah, so as she said, my name is Aiden Swallow. I go by Addie as my nickname, but you can use either one. Because there might be some people who have not met me yet, I will go through a brief little introduction about me and my qualifications, but I'm going to spend most of the time talking about some other things. All right, so despite my appearance, I am 37 years old. I will be turning 38 this year. I spent nearly 20 years in the Army. I was in the Army for 19 and a half before I was kicked out for being myself. And then in the Army, what I primarily did is I was an intelligence professional. So I did intelligence for nearly 20 years. Wrote national level reports, conducted national level investigations, investigated people for security issues, national security crimes. So I was primarily a interrogator or human intelligence collector. So I went to Iraq and Afghanistan to interrogate as well as to conduct source operations. That's that fancy spy stuff that you see in those movies. I basically did a version of that. I can't go into detail about that, but I basically did a version of that. And then I also did strategic debriefing in Korea. What that means is I talked to a lot of either Korean nationals in very high government positions or other U.S. positions, and we collected intelligence through that way. And then I became a counterintelligence special agent, so that is a federal investigator for national security crimes specifically, and that includes like treason, sedition, stuff like that. And I went to Southwest Asia, and that's where I conducted national level investigations, and I led national level investigations over that span. After that, I then went to Fort Huachuca in 2019, and I became an instructor. I was an E7, the Sergeant First Class, for those of you not unsure of the actual ranks. That's a senior non-commissioned officer. So I went to Fort Huachuca, and that's where I taught students how to do interrogation, source operations, counterintelligence work, and leadership courses. So I taught the next generation how to be staff sergeants in E6, and I taught the next generations how to be Sergeant First Class E7s. And that's primarily what I did on Fort Huachuca, and then that's where my final destination was at Fort Huachuca. So I've come back and forth to Arizona a lot. I was not born here, nor did I spend most of my time here, but I was here a lot for the military, and since 2019 I've lived here, and I've lived in Cochise County, specifically Sierra Vista. So that's a little bit of my qualifications. I personally think I'm extremely qualified to be for the House of Representatives, which is the role that I'm running. I'm running for State House of Representatives for LD19, which, as Jackie already showed you the map, certainly includes us, right? And one thing I do want to show, or want to say, is because some people were confused when I was at Quail Creek. Jackie and I are not opponents. We are not running against each other. There are 2 spots in the House. So, and there's 2 spots, and there's 2 of us, meaning we're not competing against each other, right? So you can support us both, all right? Some people were unsure about that. So, yeah, so that's a little bit of my qualifications. I think that, like I said, I'm completely qualified. So why did I join politics? Well, much like Jackie, I'm not a politician. I never wanted to be in politics. And sometimes I wish I wasn't, okay? But I decided to get involved because when the inauguration happened, when when Trump finally came back, everything seemed to fall apart, and that's when I said enough was enough. In the military, we learn that sometimes if the right leader isn't standing up, sometimes you have to be that leader who does it instead, right? And so that's what I did, and that's what I intend to do. I don't intend to be in politics for 10, 12 years. Not going to happen, right? I'm here to solve a problem, and I'm here to solve a crisis that we have. We've already talked about this. The Republicans have kept a majority for 50, 60 years in this area, right? And partially they do that by, and I know Bob Karp's going to talk about this, but it's kind of a passionate thing. They're able to do that because they use the term limits as an improper way of serving. For those of you who don't know, we don't have term limits. Anybody who says that we do is either ill-informed or lying. We don't have term limits in the sense that people think we have term limits. You serve amount of 8 years consecutively, and then you can jump to another chamber, serve another 8 years, and jump right back. That's how people like Gail Griffin and David Gowan have been in politics for 20 plus years in the same places. They just swap from House to Senate to House to Senate to House, right? And that's what they do. And that's why we've had this problem down here, because they just keep getting reelected. So speaking of that, let's talk about my opponents for a little bit. And I don't normally insult my opponents or talk nasty, but I might just do a little bit of that right now. We have three opponents. For those of you that don't realize, we should only have two, but the Republicans are going to have a primary. Me and Jackie don't have a primary really, but they have a primary, right? So we have the normal Lube Diaz, right? And he is a Christian nationalist, extremist, fundamentalist. He's a crazy person. Hope you never have to meet him. And then we have Cheryl Caswell. Honestly, she doesn't seem that bad, except for the fact that she's a turning point candidate. So there's that. And then we have David Gowan, and he's as corrupt as he is bald, which is mostly. He's a problem. He's had many problems. He once was the Speaker of the House until he did so much corrupt stuff that they kicked him off of that. So they've been around for a long time. So those are our opponents, and no one's been able to beat them in forever. So maybe this is the time that we can finally beat them. Now that's why I say I think we can do better. All right. I think the bar's pretty low, and I think that we can do better. So now let's talk about me a little bit. What I plan on doing for you when I get elected. Right. My platform is pretty robust. It includes a lot of different things that I want to focus on. Affordability being one of them, and child care, rent control, a lot of things like that. But I always pin it on three major issues, because I always find that if you have too many things, then maybe it gets lost. But if you have three main issues that you mainly focus on, and then you also have other stuff that you care about, that's probably easier for most people to digest. So the three main issues, well, we already talked about water. I don't think I need to beat that dead horse about water. The main thing is that we need to make Arizona water for Arizonans, right? And we can do that through a lot of different legislation that needs to be either reversed or abolished or taken out. So I'm not going to beat that horse on water, because I'm sure we've heard enough about water so far. The next one that I'm going to talk about is public schools. Obviously, with the sign back there, we all know about public schools. We know how important those are. We know how horrible the ESA vouchers are. But the ESA vouchers did serve a purpose at one point. And so I'm not saying that they're completely evil. What I'm saying is that they need to be what they were actually meant for, which is not what they're being used for. right? So we need to look at our public schools, we need to invest in our public schools. That's not just with money, that's with quality of teachers, and that's with, saving our budget by limiting the ESA vouchers almost entirely, which hopefully we might already accomplish. But, all right, so that's public schools. Now hospitals. Hospitals are a big problem in rural Arizona. In fact, in the 5 districts, there's already rural hospitals that are either closing or about to close. And that's a big deal. That's a big deal anywhere, really. When a hospital closes, that's a huge deal. But it's even more of a big deal in rural Arizona because, let's just take an example, a hospital in Graham County. Many people, I don't know if any of you have been to Safford in Graham County, but Safford has 2 hospitals, that I know of anyway, 2 hospitals. One of them is an affordable hospital, and the other one is the hospital everyone goes to. The one that is the affordable hospital is either closed or about to close. And when the hospitals close, just think about where we are. Jackie talked about the mountains. Just think about where we are. To get to Safford, you either have to go way across the north through where Phoenix is, or all the way down the south to Cochise and then up to Tucson, right? So when a hospital closes, you're talking hour drive commute, like multi-hour drive commute, just to get services that you need. That's for a checkup, that's for an emergency, that's for a pregnancy, whatever. The hospital's all the way over there, right? So that's part of the problem, and part of the reason that we're losing these hospitals is because of the great budget that our nation decided to instill upon us with the big old bill. I don't want to call it by its real name because it's gross. So hospitals are closing. So I think that is a major thing that we need to focus on is our rural hospitals and providing health care to our citizens. Speaking about providing health care to our citizens, Access, which is a great program, isn't enough. And even if Access was enough, they're cutting that too, right? And so one of the major bills one of my major focuses is actually a bill that I call Arizona Shield. And I'm actually proud of this because it kind of champions how I feel about hospitals and healthcare. I think ideally we would have Medicare for all. I don't think we're there yet. We should be, but we're not there yet, right? But I think a good alternative, till we could maybe potentially get there, is with Arizona Shield, what I propose that we do is that it offsets Access. So it doesn't replace Access. It doesn't beef up Access. We still should beef up Access, but that's not what this thing focuses on. What this focuses on is supplementing all the health care that Access either doesn't provide, people who either don't have access or who are not approved for access, and large copays or surgeries or procedures that Access doesn't cover. So that's what this would focus on. Now, you may say to yourself, that's pretty expensive. How are we supposed to fund that? And you're right, there's a funding cost for everything. But when you actually look at when we stop giving huge tax cuts and we start actually taxing our fair share for the people just in Arizona, we not only can pay for programs like that, but much more programs also. And that's just one funding source. That's just one. So there's many other funding sources that I won't get into now because that gets complicated when you go to appropriations and you're in the House and they start talking about money but I'm just giving an example of one funding source that could almost solve the entire problem just in Arizona. And I envision Arizona Shield to be an Arizona-wide program, not just LD19 program. All right. Now, okay, so let's go on to some updates about the campaign. So last time I was here, I gave you guys 3 endorsements that I had, and my endorsements have increased since then. So major, I am endorsed by Arizona List. They were the first ones. And that endorses all, well not all, but they primarily endorse women candidates who, for different positions up and down the ballot. And then I have Advocates for Trans Equality. They were also an early endorser of mine as well. And then I have Equality Arizona, which is their new endorsement. And then I have Run for Something, which I don't know if you guys know who Run for Something is, but they've also endorsed me and that comes with a lot of national and statewide endorsers that have also jumped on board with them. And so those are the major endorsers that I have at this point. I have lots of applications in, probably more will come through. Let's see, some events. So when it comes to events, I have, oh wow, I just blanked on the event that we had coming up. Oh well, I'll come back to it. So the most recent one is going to be, well, I'll just talk about 4th of July. That's the exciting one, right? So unfortunately, I'm not going to, I don't know if I'm going to be here for the 4th of July. I'm actually going to try. But I know before you grow, George, I see you back there, before you grow, the reason why is I was invited by Common Defense, Sons of Liberty, Political Drain, some other veteran organizations. I'm going to be speaking at the nation's capital on July 3rd. And that's going to be about veteran stuff specifically. It's going to be a big bashing session on Trump, but I will work in Arizona too, so don't worry. We'll work that one in too. But that's so they invited me for that because I'm a candidate, but then also I'm a semi-high-profile veteran in the political sphere at the moment. So that's why they invited me to do that. So I will be there for that. I will try to fly back out, and I don't want to fly because ew. But it's way too expensive to drive there. But I will try to be back by the 4th. Hopefully I can leave the night of the 3rd and be back to maybe come to some of the 4th of July events. So we'll see. I'll try. All right. Now I get to the unfun part, which is the thing I probably suck at most when it comes to politics. And that's asking for your money. You think I should be good at this, but I'm not. Okay, so I'm a clean elections candidate. So what that means is I take the $5 contributions, and then the state gives me $60,000 once I turn it in. Is basically what it comes down to. Roughly 55 or so. It's roughly around there, right? So I still need a few qualifying contributions to make that 200 mark. If everybody in the room who hasn't done it already does, that'll either get me there or make me really, really close. And the cool thing about it is once I get clean election funding, I can't ask you for more money. So, hey, there's some motivation. And I have two ways of doing it. You can either do the digital one that's in the back or the physical form. I will do the physical form also. I do have to jet at like 4:15, so if I end up not being here, the Green Valley Dems will grab it for me and I'll pick it up from there. And then the last thing I want to end on some positivity, okay? So a lot of people talk about how, especially the ADLCC too, how this is an unwinnable district. It's not worth the fight. It's a plus 19 or whatever they said, 23, I don't know. Doesn't matter. And it's not worth fighting for, trying to flip the seats down here. They're completely wrong. If you look at the map is there. This district has, and especially now, is flippable. It doesn't matter what they say, and even if they're right, why do we care if they think that? We'll do it anyway. So the math is there between the Democrats, the independents, and the people who who we don't know because they're not registered to vote right now, or the people just turning 18, or the people who are like me, who are a millennial who didn't care about politics because all politicians are gross or something stupid like that, right? So those are the people that we're going to target and we're going to grab. And when we do, we will flip the house. And if Jackie and I can flip the house, and then Tucson can flip, and other places can flip, and we only need like 4 seats or something like that to flip across the state. If we keep all that we have, we would have the majority in the House. And then the same can be for the Senate, all right? And Bob fits in there. So the map is there. So if anybody tries to dissuade you, don't listen to them. All right? People kept saying that Trump wasn't going to win the first time either. So whatever. So don't listen to them. All right? It doesn't matter what the polls say, and it doesn't matter what their funny little math says. We're going to go out and we're going to do our job, and then we'll either get people or we won't. So let's just move forward like that. So yeah, we can do it together. And that's what I'm going to end on.
Thank you.
Yes.
Being a veteran, are veterans issues important to you as well?
Oh,
And in services and this kind of, you didn't mention it as one
Yeah.
of your priorities, so.
Yeah, I don't use it as one of the major points just because there's more than just veterans that live in the state. So I focused on things that virtually affect everybody, which is schools, water, hospitals.
Healthcare.
However, veteran issues is a huge issue. I mean, they're trying to take my benefits too. So, you know, like, yeah, so veteran issues are a huge problem for sure.
Thank you.
Wow, this is so exciting. All right, our third speaker of the day is Mr. Bob Karp. And if you've not heard him before, you're going to like what he has to say. You're up. All right, Bob.
I like that. Okay, we're going to get started. I'm going to start with a question. How many of you have heard me speak before? That's what I was afraid of. But there's some new people that I can talk to. So I'm going to go through the whole thing. And I will start with a statement. There was lots of conversation between Aiden and Jackie about being a politician. This is my 4th time for running. We'll go over that in a moment. And people say, well, you're a politician. I say, until you're elected, you're a hobbyist. So I'm still doing my hobby work. Okay, so thank you for inviting me again. My campaign, as you can see, is really about reform and renewal. There's some items on there that I'm going to talk about vouchers, term limits, affordable health care, data centers, post-secondary education, and a few other things. We can go to the next slide if you don't mind. So here's my history. It's very discouraging in some ways. You can see that I've run 3 times previously. I ran in 2018 in the old the old LD14, which did not include Green Valley. So that's why some of you haven't seen me. I ran against Becky Nutt and Gail Griffin. In 2020, I ran for state senate in the old LD14. I ran against David Gowan, which we've heard about. That's a lot of fun, I have to tell you. And in 2024, I skipped 2022, you notice? I got a dog. There are pictures of the dog. You will see the dog on the back of my campaign literature after the primary. So I took 2022 off. We actually had candidates running. So, and in 2026, I'm running again against Gail Griffin. And I am a write-in candidate, which I will explain so that you understand what went wrong. You'll notice we had a great button done, 3rd time's a charm. So we want to do a new button, and you know, I'm looking for suggestions. Suggestion that I have is the 4th time is a problem. So, anyways, we would like to do a button. If we could go to the next slide, please. Many of you know who I am. I'm going to do a very brief biography of who I am. I graduated from UCLA with a BA in political science. I moved to Cochise County in 2005, and I currently live in Sierra Vista. I am a business person, and I think that's important to say. 50 years owning 3 different businesses. The first business, which I took over from my father, who retired very suddenly after I got out of UCLA, and I was working as a professional campaign manager at the time for a local city council candidate. And my father decided to retire and said, at age 22, will you take over the machine shop? And I said, okay, but here's the deal. You have to move out of Los Angeles. He called my bluff and moved. So I started at a very young age running a machine shop, did that for about 18 years, then went on and opened up a Microsoft solution provider partner, doing software development, a small company with 2 partners originally. We grew to 50 some odd employees, $2.5 million payroll back in the early 2000s. And then I retired after the dot-com bust, moved down here to Sierra Vista in Cochise County, and opened up a real estate brokerage. The reason I opened up a real estate brokerage, people sold me my house in Wild Horse, which is sort of rural, very nice 4-acre lots. My neighbor said, oh, you'd be great in real estate. 2009. The real estate bust. Perfect time to get into real estate. But I was looking for something different. I did wind up opening up a real estate brokerage that specialized in property management. The reason I'm talking to you about that is, and I've talked about this before in previous campaigns, Republicans like to say of Democrats, you do not know what it is to do a payroll. You don't understand what it means to have health insurance for your employees. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. I had a $2.5 million payroll, and in every business I've ever had, my employees had health insurance. And that's an important thing that we want to make sure we do. In 2015, I was president of the Southeast Arizona Association of Realtors and the Multiple Listing Service. The Multiple Listing Service handles all property sales in Cochise County. That's a $50 million marketplace, heavily regulated. I then moved on once I was no longer president of this Multiple Listing Service and I retired from real estate. I was on the Planning and Zoning Commission for Sierra Vista, the city of Sierra Vista, for 2 years. I've told this story. Some people have heard it before. I don't think that many people have heard it here. I was on Planning and Zoning when our city, the city of Sierra Vista, decided to allow chickens in the city. Okay? In the city. Now, and I'm on the Planning and Zoning Commission, and we had hearings. And the hearings, people brought in slides of their chickens. And so there were slides of the chickens, and I'm sitting there, I'm going to my happy place, and I finally, it was time for questions. And so I just said to one of the people, well, do you let them in the house? And they said, oh, sure, they're pets. And I said, uh-oh. I was the no vote, and I've told people in the past, I was the no vote back in 2017, ran in 2018, 2020, and 2024. People have come up to me, and every time I've run and said, you're the person who voted against the chickens. Supporting abortion rights, supporting all sorts of stuff? No, it's about the chickens. So many of you will know this. My first campaign was for Eugene McCarthy, when he ran way back when against a war, the Vietnam War, and I was in college, and so those of you who know, that's how I got started in politics, and I have worked off and on over the years. I'm single and I'm retired. Can we go just to the first part of the next slide, please? Okay, so I'm running again. I'm going to explain why I'm running in a moment. I'm running again, and people come up to me. What do you think the first question is? That first question, are you going to have signs? Yes, I am. Here we go. Okay, so that's the yard sign. Very nice. New design since last time. It's 4-color rather than 2-color. And let's have the other one. This is the big sign that we will have as well. This is a 32 by 48. So that, yes, I will. Of course, because I am running traditional, which we'll talk about in a moment, have to have money. So let's back up a little bit and talk about why I'm running as a write-in campaign and what that means. I'm running as a write-in campaign because we had a state senate candidate, Ryan Slauson. I think he spoke here. Ryan, unfortunately, first-time candidate, did not qualify for the ballot. He was challenged. He did not have enough signatures. He was not allowed to be on the ballot. There was a discussion after he was off the ballot with the county chairs of LD19, and I am a county chair as well in Cochise County. And we had a conversation, and our feeling as Democrats were, we have to have somebody run against Gail Griffin. We cannot have that position with nobody. We're not doing a service to our Democrats by not allowing them to have somebody to run. And that's very important because we want to make sure the entire ballot gets people involved, and we didn't want to have a blank. Okay, then somehow I wound up being the person because I've done it 3 times. So that's how we got here. So can we have the next slide, please? So some good news and some bad news. And I always ask people, which would you rather have first, good news or bad news? We're just going to go with the good news. So, because that's next. Good news is we do have Hobbs, Mays, and Fontes at the head of our government. And we want to keep that. And there's a big reason why we want to keep that. Let's have the bad news. And you've heard it already. The Republicans control the state legislature for 50 plus years. Next slide, please. This is a slide I've shown over the years, and I keep adding to it. The good news is we've added some blue at the governor level, but look at the red. 1 year in 50 some odd years, we control the state Senate. No years have we ever controlled the state House. No years. So that has profound issues that both Jackie and Aiden have talked about, and we care about that because otherwise what we have happening right now is we have a governor who basically has to veto all the bad news, right? It's a constant battle of extremist nonsense coming from the state legislature. Governor vetoes it, and some of it still makes it onto the ballot. That's what's called a concurrent resolution. It's a way to get the nastiest stuff through the state legislature without the ability to get a veto, and it winds up on the state ballot. And in November, we're probably going to have 18 or so is it higher than propositions? Yeah, and they're going to be, it's going to be crazy. It's going to be crazy. Can we go to the next slide, please? So you heard talk. This is the current situation as Representative Natural Resources and Energy and Water. That's the control that Gail Griffin has had. When she moves over to the state Senate again, if she does, she's going to go straight into the same committee again and have the same power. Look at what Gowan does. Military Affairs, Public Safety, and Border Security. All things he's well qualified for, right? Yeah. I like to make a story about David Gowan. You've all seen him, I suppose. You know he wears the hat?
Cowboy hat.
Cowboy hat?
Yeah.
He's as much as a cowboy as I am if I wear a baseball cap, as I'm a baseball player. He has no ranching experience. It's it's all a facade. It's all a facade. And Luby, who is sort of the wild card here because he came in, he took Becky Nutt's place when she quit, and now has been reelected twice. And as I think Aiden said, very conservative, religious conservative, and now he's stepping up to have, look at what he has, House Land, Agriculture, and Rural Affairs, all that have tremendous tremendous overhead on us in rural area. And as I said about Gail is very good at killing water regulations. She just refuses to have hearings on them. And over the years, if she gets a Republican that wants to go with the Democrats to at least hear something, she throws them off the committee. You wouldn't think that would be possible, but it is possible. Yeah, it's one of the things we should be doing about reform. Next slide, please. So why do we care about the Republicans? The Republicans, we've just got a budget. I don't think it's been passed, but Hobbs signed off on it. And what the Republicans do is they use the budget process to get bad policy. And so there's 3 things here I want to mention to you. The first is tax breaks for the wealthy. This is the big, bad, beautiful bill, reconciliation adjustment of state taxes to the giveaways that the federal government put in for the wealthy, okay? So our majority leader, Senate Majority Leader Kavanaugh says that, well, we want full conformity, cuts $1.45 billion from our state budget revenue in the next 3 years. And he states, oh, no other state has done that. He's thrilled. Yeah, no other state has done it because it just put a knife through our ability to have funding to do the things that we want to do. So this is very important. This is in the budget. They're giving away massive amounts of money to the wealthy and tax breaks. The other thing is, Aiden talked about it and Jackie talked about healthcare. The restrictions on access mostly come from the federal government, but the state government has some power here, and they can make it even tougher because the state wants to now make it a requirement that you have to go in for what they call an appointment or something more often. Yeah, you're a working person, barely making it, right? Because access and Medicaid is usually under the poverty level, and you're working maybe 2 jobs. You have to go to some state office twice a year and have an appointment. What do you think the chances are that people will do it? They'll make a phone call and be put on hold for 60 minutes. It isn't going to happen, and then they're off the system. So that's another thing they did. Finally, let's talk about data centers. This is interesting. Hobbs asked the lawmakers to repeal tax breaks that convinced data companies to build data centers. And according to this information, she supported this in 2013, and now she does not support it. I'll give her a pass. 2013, what was going on with data centers? Data centers were things like GoDaddy. GoDaddy is in Phoenix. It was to allow them to have more people on the internet on websites, right? And it's not the data centers we're talking about with AI. So the point is, the lawmakers decided this time they wouldn't scrap the incentives. They just would moratorium any new incentives. So there are incentives for tax breaks and rebates and credits against electricity. It's in the law. This is something that I want to get rid of. So can we go on to the next slide? Okay, you heard a little bit about LD. I'm going a little bit in the weeds, but I just wanted to give you can sort of see, this is the registration of LD19 by county as recently as April 1st. And what we were talking about and why the ALDCC says it's not viable. The numbers are terrible for us. I mean, we have 34,000, almost 35,000 Democrats. Republicans have almost twice as much. And independents, you'll notice, are much bigger as well. When I ran in 2024, Gowan beat me by 30,000 votes. Okay, it's daunting. It's very, very daunting. I will say that I think that the environment is better. 2024 was a presidential election, right? We are in a midterm election. We expect, with the modeling, that we will probably see less Republicans vote. Let's hope. Let's hope. Can we go to the next slide, please? So here's something that I'm talking about as a strategy, and this is for Cochise County. What you're seeing here, this is a list of all the people who did not, Democrats who did not vote in the 2024 general election by precinct, the first column. If you go all the way down, it comes out to 4,100 Democrats, right? On the second column are all the independents that signed the abortion initiative. I want to target all these people. I believe this is a way to pick up 6,000, 8,000 votes. I believe I don't have access to the data for the other 5 counties until I get my van, but this is a number that we should all be looking at because we have limited resources, but we could target this with things like texting, phone banking, some deliberate advertising, and we should go for the people at first and convince them that it's important to vote. And some of the independents will vote for Democrats because we have the message. They were willing to sign the abortion petition. So this is, when we talk about things being difficult, there is a strategy. There is a strategy to get the vote closer. Why do we care about this stuff? And why do I want to get more votes? CD6 and CD7. The reason that I am running is to ensure that Joanna Mendoza is elected to Congress. Because I want to make sure that people are enthusiastic about coming out to vote, and if they're enthusiastic about coming out to vote for me, that's a pretty hard, but there will be people who are enthusiastic. Part of my message is vote for Joanna, because we can make change. Next slide, please. Okay, so a little bit about my reform agenda. And these are things you've heard some of them. Let's start right at the top. We're going to create real term limits. You heard the reason, the 8 and 8 and 8 and 8. I want, first thing I'm going to do when I'm in the state senate, 12 years and you're done. You can do it in both houses if you want. You can do it in one house. But we need new voices. We need new people in there. And we particularly need younger people and working class people in there if we can figure out a way to do it. The first way to do it is stop this bouncing back and forth. And, it's easy for me to say because it's happened with Gowan and Griffin for years. Democrats do it too in safe districts. I believe that it's good for the entire government to have a rural term limit. Interestingly enough, Griffin in 2014 signed the pledge for term limits, but only for the U.S. legislature, or the House. What a hypocrite. I want to protect mail-in voting. We have the initiative, but again, having something on an initiative is not as good as having a state legislature who puts law in place, because every time we vote something on the ballot, it goes to a court, there's a fight, and half the time it's thrown off. Doesn't mean we shouldn't be signing initiatives, but if we had a state legislature that would actually write law, it's going to stay. It's going to stay forever. So I want to protect vote centers, mail-in voting, early voting as well, and I also want to make sure, and our Secretary of State has been doing this, that we do not share private voter data with the federal government. Period. End of conversation. He's been very good on this. It's a reason to support him going forward. But again, if we put it in law, and the Secretary of State doesn't have to go out on his own and say, well, I'm interpreting this. Let's just make sure we do not share private voter data. Overhaul the ESA school vouchers. I talked this morning. I use the term kill the vouchers. My campaign consultant, who is a friend of mine, says, we can't say kill. Can't do it. So overhaul the vouchers because we want to return it back to what its original intention was, which was helping special needs students who could not get services in the public school system. Okay? And again, the initiative is great. It's around the age of it. We're talking about fraud. We're talking about things we'll cap it. I'm not going to say kill. Let's just slide it away, and then let's rebuild it. How about that? We'll rebuild it from the start, and we know how to do it because it existed before. So I want to do that. Expand Medicaid in some way, and one of the things is we certainly don't want to make it harder. I have changed my mind about this over the years, and it's more a federal issue. I'm now for either Medicaid for all or single payer. The only way we're going to get there is at a federal level, but in the meantime, let's do some things about expanding it, making it easier. And one of the ways to do that is to make sure that it's very clear how people can stay on the program. That's very, very important. Instead of being hostile to it, we have to be, yes, we want you covered because it's good economics. People going into emergency rooms is not the solution here. And you heard about rural hospitals, and a lot of the way rural hospitals go broke is because they don't get 100% of the money of people walking in uninsured to emergency rooms. New water regulations. Jackie talked about this. I have two simple things that I've talked about in the past. I want to give ADWR, that's Arizona Department of Water Resources, more power to monitor industrial wells. Okay, there's two types of wells in general. What Jackie has, which is a private well, 35 gallons a minute. Industrial wells have different amounts. There's no serious monitoring in this state. The ADWR does not have the power to do it. I want to get them the power. And I want to see, particularly in Cochise County, a moratorium on drilling any well more than 1,000 feet until we really get all the monitoring in place. Very tough to do this with Gail Griffin there. And of course, if I'm there, Gail Griffin isn't there. So there's some good news, right? Opposing data centers, you heard I just believe that we start with a simple statement. I will not vote for any special tax breaks, any legislation that allows a data center in LD19. We want it statewide. But I have to start with a very clear statement. I am, as an elected official in LD19, I am opposed to all data centers. I'm also opposed to any expansion in mining in LD19. Of course, parts of LD19 have a mining history, particularly up in Greenlee, so we have to adjust to that, but we certainly don't have to have more mines in the LD. Finally, there's a tax law that many people do not know about that was written in 1992, and this is the beginning of what I really believe is unfair taxation in this state. The tax law is to cut taxes, simple majority, state legislature. To raise taxes, 2/3.
Oh, really?
It's on the books. So basically, 10 Republicans, because there's only 30 people in the Senate, 10 Republicans can stop any tax increase. And they have, and they've done it very consistently. You'll say, well, but there have been some things. Yes, they do them as fees. Your auto registration has gone up. And the beauty of this is they just shift it down to local government. They shifted away from the income tax. And so I want to see that we really reform this. Very tough to do this. It was voted 75% yes in 1992. But it's a different era. And we're being starved of funding here. And we have to have a way to use it more effectively. Can I have the next slide, please? So I talked about reform. I want to talk about renewal. Renewal is an economic issue. It's a renewal of various things. We've heard about reinvesting in our public schools. I believe the voucher system isn't the whole problem. We do not have an ability to think seriously about public school education in this state anymore. One thing that we could do is do multi-year budgeting, because every year the budget comes out, public schools have no idea what they're getting. How can they plan? How can they plan for anything with a one-year budget? So I want to see multi-year budgeting. I want to see the idea that education is not being delivered at the public school level in the way that our parents expect it to be delivered. There's great dissatisfaction with the public schools. And if we don't talk about that, and we don't, at the state level, we need a superintendent of instruction, and we need a state legislature that says, this is serious, let's figure out how to innovate, let's figure out how to invest, and let's make sure our children are getting the best outcomes possible. And I believe that we can do it, but we have to first say, let's do it. So I'm strongly in favor of doing that. In rural areas of the LD, we really need an investment in infrastructure. Roads are in bad shape, but it's also the inability to have high-speed internet in some areas, particularly Greenlee is a real problem. Not enough competition. It's hard to do, again, and that funding has come from the federal government. But roads and the electric grid, surprisingly, the electric grid in the rural areas is a real issue. For example, it's not easy to have solar power in Cochise County because the electric grid isn't strong enough to have majors that. Water would be an issue for solar as well, but we need to invest in all of that. I told you I oppose data centers, and I would vote to rescind all tax breaks, period, end of conversation. And we need laws to regulate AI. And we're not there yet about AI, but it's time to think about it. The federal government isn't interested in regulating AI, so what we need to think as, what can we do? We certainly can put safety guards there. We can certainly make sure that certain things like images are marked as AI. We need to understand how AI is going to be used for jobs, and the state needs to start to talk about that. Healthcare, you heard about that, and I do believe in low-cost healthcare. I think it's very important for working families to have healthcare and childcare. We need to expand credits for childcare to middle-class families, because most of you, I don't have children. I was saying I don't have children, but you all probably, many of you have children, grandchildren that have childcare issues. It's outrageously expensive. It makes it difficult for both parents to work. It makes it difficult for them. They're locked into a job, perhaps because they can't afford to move or whatever. We need to figure out a way to extend child care credits to the middle class. Right now, it's available to the to under poverty level, but it is not available to middle class. I'd like to see free 2 years of college or a vocational school to any student who graduates from Arizona high school, public school high school. Let's start programs and try it in rural counties first, in rural areas, rural counties. And what I want to do is 2 years of community college or real vocational trade set. And one of the problems with vocational trade, we have some, and interestingly enough, Cochise has a nursing school there, and it's first rate. It's actually, people come from all over the country to go there. Graham has mining, but we really need to start to think about it, because what I don't want to see is we see students kids coming out and wanting vocational, and they wind up in these private vocational schools, which they're useless. They're rip-offs, yeah. So it's important that the state make a statement. We want to extend post-secondary education in a bunch of different ways that works for all students, because not everybody wants to go to college. It's too damn expensive, and we need to make sure that these people are educated, at least have the ability to get a decent education that is regulated and is going to deliver what it's supposed to deliver. Okay, let's next slide. Here we are to this. Okay, so now you're going to hear this part of it. So here it is, folks. 429. There's sort of confusion about what this means. The write-in it's not signatures. You have to actually write in my name on your primary ballot. Okay, you're going to get a mail. How many of you do mail-in? Yeah, everybody. Yeah. Anybody? Okay. You're going to get a ballot, and on it, it's going to say LD19 State Senator. It's going to have a blank line. Ooh. You're going to put my name there, and you're going to spell it correctly, because they probably would take it incorrectly spelled, but we don't want challenges, right? The most important thing is to color in the oval. Otherwise, it will not be counted. So I am a legitimate write-in candidate. I had to file with the Secretary of State. Therefore, each of the county recorders and elections offices are notified that they have to count ballots with my name on it. I need 429 to get on the November ballot as the nominee. We can do this. Let's get 1,000 in all 5 counties, right, George?
Right. One quick question.
Yes.
We're looking at the ballot.
Yes.
And right there on the screen, will Gail Griffin's name be right above that? And then
No. It's a Democratic primary. Oh, it's only going to have Democrats on it.
Oh, I'm
It's
sorry.
the Democratic primary. No.
The general election.
No. My name is going to be right under her name on the general election.
Let's make sure that we're...
Yeah. So
Thank you.
you're going to see a blank. So, and this is critical, obviously, but then this is why I'm here. We've got to do this. Let's go on to the next slide. And we have the cards in the back that you can take and remind you about it. Yes, ma'am.
There are 2 lines on there, there'll be 2 lines on the ballot?
It'll just be one blank line.
One blank line?
One blank line with an oval. It'll be right under the word state senator, LD19 state senator. Yeah. I'm assuming, that's what Cochise does. I think it's pretty standard. It's pretty standard, isn't it? Yeah. So I'm going to take you behind, how are we doing time-wise? Are we okay? Yeah. Quickly take you behind the curtain. I'm about to ask for money. I'm actually good at asking for money. Because I'm going to give you a reason for asking for money. Okay, I am running traditional. That means every dollar I have to raise. Every single dollar. So what I did is I put together a budget, because I'm not going to have $55,000. And I don't expect you guys to pony up $55,000. Although, if you want to meet me afterwards and write a huge check, we can work with that. So I've put together, and you don't have to look at the numbers, I want you to know that I have thought about running a lean and mean campaign that involves minimal things, getting the yard signs, doing some texting, getting the VAN, the voter access network, which is the registered voters thing, so I can do targeted texting and things like that. That's my basic thing about $6,600. I then did some additional things, more texting, some advertising, social media, hiring somebody who does TikTok, and God forbid, I certainly couldn't do that. And Facebook, I'm on Facebook and stuff like that, but I need more. So that's $11,000 roughly. The idea is, I've thought about it. When I'm raising money, there is a reason for raising the money, and it will be well spent. So if you can help that way, that would be great. Next slide, please. So I was at an event a year ago, not when I ran in 2024, where they put a QR code up on the screen. They made everybody get out their phone and do it, and didn't give money. Not doing that, folks. Not doing that. But I do have an Act Blue thing, and I have in the back here the QR codes for you if you want to give to my campaign. And I appreciate it. Again, as I said, I'm running traditional, so therefore I need to raise the money. Last slide, please. So here's the point, and what's important to read. Democracy happens from the bottom up. Vote the entire ballot. Please vote the entire ballot. And I want you to repeat after me. Gail Griffin is a professional politician who has been in the state legislature 24 plus years. We can do better. And that's the message. Tell everybody Gail Griffin is a professional politician, because that's not how she projects herself. She's this nice lady that, just goes up to the legislature every 6 months or whatever, She's a professional politician. Thank you. Let's vote for change. We can be bold. We do not have to accept where we are today. We can do this. I appreciate the time. Thank you very much. I will answer questions if you have them. Yeah. Thank you very much.
What is your website?
Oh,
Your website?
it's rwcarp.com. Yeah. So.
You go to the website to make donations also?
Yes, there's a donation button on the website. The website is right now just focused totally on the write-in. I have to get on the ballot. So, anything else? Yes, Jackie?
No, this was great. First of all, it was great to, I was, because of this whole water issue, I had attended and I've listened to some of their meetings, the
AWR.
Yeah, and I kept thinking they're kind of weak, and I'm like, why? And then on top of it, they wanted to move him down to a manager level.
Yeah.
Did you see that bill? I mean,
Yeah.
it didn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
So that's the problem, is they don't have enough meat in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they also have it here. Groundwater. They're constantly beating at them.
Yeah. This is why a state legislature has to give them the power. That's the important thing. So.
Thank you.
Anything else, folks? Thank you very much.
We can do better.
Thank you. Excellent. Well, without a doubt, we've got 3 wonderful candidates. Let's motivate your neighbors to vote for them.